there is a level of discipline that makes the people around you go silent. Not because you intimidate them, because your existence proves that everything they tell themselves to justify mediocrity is a lie. While they negotiate with their alarm, you're already moving. While they wait to feel ready, you have already finished. And at some point, they stop asking questions because your answers make them uncomfortable. Today, I'm going to show you the system of the Zen monks of Japan that produces exactly this kind of discipline. Automatic, silent, unstoppable. But before we begin, there is something you need to know. Before this video ends, I will show you something Kaido discovered in the darkest moment of his life. A truth about discipline that no productivity book will ever tell you, because it is too uncomfortable to sell. Stay until the end, because without that final truth, everything you learn today will remain just theory. Subscribe now, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments the one habit you have never been able to maintain for more than 3 weeks. This is Kaido's story, and if you are honest with yourself, it is yours too. Let's begin. His name was Kaido, 26 years old, a samurai warrior who had served his clan since he was 14. 12 years of absolute structure. Wake before dawn, train until exhaustion, eat, sleep, repeat. Not because he loved it, because the structure was everything. The structure was his identity. The structure was who he was. He had never missed a single day of training in 12 years. Not for illness, not for injury, not for exhaustion. Because in the world of the samurai, the man who breaks his practice breaks himself. His master had told him this. On his first day of training, Kaido had never forgotten it. He had never needed to, because for 12 years, the structure had been given to him. The bell rang and he moved. The master commanded and he obeyed. The clan needed him and he was there. He had never once been forced to choose discipline for himself. It had always been chosen for him. And then everything was taken away. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, Kaido's clan was gone. His master was dead. The training ground where he had spent 12 years of his life was ash and silence. Kaido walked away from that battlefield with his sword and nothing else. No structure, no orders, no purpose. For the first time in 12 years, no bell told him when to wake. No master told him what to do. No clan needed him to be ready. He was free, and the freedom destroyed him faster than any enemy ever had. The first week, he slept until midday. The second week, he stopped training entirely. By the third week, he was sitting in a village tavern every evening, staring at nothing, while his sword collected dust in the corner of a rented room. A samurai without practice is just a man with a weapon. His master's words, Kaido understood them now, in a way he never had before. Not as a warning, as a prophecy. One morning, he woke up and could not remember the last time he had trained. He picked up his sword. His hands felt wrong around it. The movements that had been as natural as breathing for 12 years felt foreign and uncertain. He was disappearing, not from the world, from himself. 3 months after the battle, Kaido found himself outside a Zen monastery in the mountains, not seeking enlightenment, seeking structure, any structure. The monk who opened the gate was old, calm, unhurried. He looked at Kaido for a long moment. A warrior without practice, he said. Not a question, an observation. How did you know? Because I was one once. The monk's name was Ryo. He had been a warrior before. He had been a monk. He understood both worlds in a way most people never would. That evening, he told Kaido about Gyoji, the practice that perpetuates itself. In this monastery, Ryo said, a bell is rung every morning at the same hour since the year 1200. Not once has it failed to ring. Not during earthquakes, not during wars, not during famine. The bell rings. The monks rise. The practice continues. Do you know why? Kaido said nothing. Because we do not decide every morning whether to practice. The decision was made once, and it has never been made again. Kaido sat with that for a long time. He'd spent 12 years in a system where the decision was made for him, and 3 months destroying himself because no one was making it anymore. The answer was not to find someone to make the decision for him. The answer was to make it once and never make it again. The next morning, Kaido woke before dawn, not because a bell rang, because he had made a decision the night before that changed the nature of every morning that would follow it. He walked to the center of the monastery courtyard. He placed his sword in front of him, and he made a declaration in front of Ryo and every monk present. I am a warrior who trains every day, before the sun rises, not for 90 days, not until I feel ready. Every day, without negotiation, without exception, until I am no longer breathing. Ryo nodded slowly. A Harvard neuroscientist who spent 15 years studying human behavior discovered something that explains exactly what Kaido was doing. When you make a public declaration, your primitive brain reframes failure as a survival threat. Our ancestors who lost status in the tribe were cast out. Cast out meant death. Your brain still operates on that code. The moment Kaido made that declaration in front of witnesses, his brain stopped categorizing morning training as optional. It became a matter of survival, not metaphorical survival, biological survival. The negotiation ended before it could begin. The first week was brutal, not because the training was hard, because Kaido's body had spent 3 months learning new patterns of sleep and stillness, and the specific comfort of going nowhere. His body, he fought every morning, with every tool available to it. You are exhausted. One day will not matter. The practice can begin tomorrow. But Kaido had made the decision once. He was not making it again. By day 10, something shifted. He woke 2 minutes before. He had decided to wake. His body had begun preparing for what was coming. By day 14, his feet hit the floor, before his conscious mind had engaged, not through willpower, through repetition. Ryo explained what was happening. When you fix the hour, you remove time as a variable. Your brain cannot argue with a constant. Every morning at a different time requires a new decision. Every morning at the same time requires only movement. You have eliminated the decision. Now, there's only the action. An MIT researcher who studied behavioral automatization for 12 years found that when you repeat an action in the same context for 66 days, the basal ganglia take over completely. The behavior is no longer a decision. It is a program. Kaido was installing the program. 3 weeks and Kaido discovered a new problem. His hour was fixed, but every morning he was deciding what to do within that hour. Some mornings sword forms, some mornings breathing exercises, some mornings running. His mind had found a new negotiating point. Not when, what. Ryo saw it immediately. You have eliminated half the problem and left the other half open. Variety is where consistency dies. Every time you change what you do, your brain makes micro decisions. And micro decisions are cracks, where your old patterns return. Kaido locked everything down. 100 sword strikes, 20 minutes of breathing, 10 minutes of stillness. Same order, same duration, every single morning. His mind went to war immediately. This is mechanical. This is boring. A true warrior adapts. Kaido said nothing, because he had understood something. His mind had not yet accepted. Boring was not the enemy. Boring was the point. When there is nothing to decide, there is nothing to negotiate. By week 6, he was halfway through. His sword strikes before his conscious mind had fully engaged with what he was doing. The practice was running itself. This is Gyoji, the practice that perpetuates itself. On day 35, Kaido fell ill. Fever, weakness, every signal his body could send telling him to stop. This is where every system he had ever tried before the monastery would have ended. Sick day equals rest day. Rest day equals broken practice. Broken practice equals starting over. Starting over equals never starting again. But Ryo had prepared him for this. He had told Kaido something about gaps that Kaido had not fully understood until this moment. A gap of even one day does not pause the practice. It resurrects the old self. Because your brain does not experience a skip day as a pause. It experiences it as evidence. Evidence that the new identity was never real. Evidence that the old patterns were right. Kaido rose from his bed. He performed 30 sword strikes instead of 100. 10 minutes of breathing instead of 20. 5 minutes of stillness. Instead of 10, nothing was complete. Everything maintained a thread. An MIT researcher explained this precisely. A river never stops flowing. During drought, it may be a trickle, but the moment it stops, it is no longer a river. It is a memory of where water used to be. Kaido's practice was the river. The thread was everything. By day 50, Kaido understood something about consistency that most people never discover. The obstacles that break practice are never the ones you see coming. They're the ones you did not prepare for. Ryo had shown him how the monastery had operated for centuries without missing a single day, not through extraordinary willpower, through pre-solved problems. When a meditation hall floods, the monks move to the courtyard. When the courtyard is inaccessible, they sit in the corridor. There is no meeting, no discussion, no negotiation. The bell rings. The response is automatic. Kaido sat down and wrote every obstacle that had ever broken his consistency. Traveling to another village. 20 sword strikes in the open road. Before dawn. Injured sword arm. Breathing in stillness only. Exhausted beyond function. Minimum viable practice. Something always beats nothing. Each scenario had a predetermined response. When this happens, I do this. No thinking, no deciding, just execution. A Yale behavioral psychologist who studied decision-making for 20 years found that when you pre-decide your actions, you remove decision fatigue from the critical moment. Your willpower remains intact to execute, rather than to decide. Kaido had eliminated every decision, except the one he had already made. 90 days after the courtyard declaration, Kaido completed his personal Ango. 3 months of unbroken practice. And here is what nobody tells you about what happens on the other side. Of 90 days, he did not feel victorious. He did not feel proud. He felt something stranger and more powerful than either of those. He felt inevitable, like someone who had stopped trying to become something, and simply was it. His sword work had changed, not dramatically, not overnight, but in the way that things change when they are practiced correctly. For long enough, the movements that had felt foreign 3 months ago in that rented room now felt like breathing. His hands remembered what his mind had temporarily forgotten. Ryo watched him train one morning and said nothing for a long time. Then he said one sentence: "You're no longer practicing discipline. You're discipline." Kaido stopped. He understood. The man who had sat in that tavern, staring at nothing, was not resting. He was disappearing. The practice had not rebuilt him. It had recovered him. The warrior had always been there, buried under 3 months of freedom without structure. Gyoji had not created something new. It had removed everything that was covering what already existed. Here is the truth about discipline that no productivity book will sell you, because it does not make you feel good in the way that books need to make you feel. To be purchased, discipline is not a tool. It is not a habit. It is not a system. Discipline is the structure that reveals who you actually are when everything else is removed. Kaido did not discover this in 12 years of following orders. He discovered it in 3 months of having no orders to follow, because freedom without structure is not freedom. It is dissolution. It is the slow disappearance of the person you spent years building. A warrior without practice is just a man with a weapon. His master had told him this. He had never understood it until the weapon felt wrong in his hands. The monks of Japan have rung the same bell every morning since the year 1200. Not because they lack imagination, not because they fear change, because they understand something that the modern world has forgotten. In its obsession with freedom and flexibility, the man who is free from structure is not more free than the man who has chosen his structure deliberately. He is less free because he is controlled by circumstance, by mood, by tiredness, by temptation, by every force outside himself that fills the space that discipline would have occupied. The warrior who chooses his structure is controlled by nothing except the decision he made once and has never needed to make again. Kaido lost everything on a battlefield: his clan, his master, his structure, and in losing everything, he discovered the only thing That could never be taken from him. The practice he chose for himself, not because someone ordered it, because he finally understood that without it, he was not free. He was simply lost. You are not missing motivation. You are not missing talent. You are missing the one decision that ends all other decisions. Make it now, not tomorrow, not on Monday. Now, if this reached something inside you, subscribe and activate the bell. Leave one comment below. One word only. The practice you are declaring. Starting today, not someday. Today. See you in the next video.